Now to the growing concerns over whether or not Hamas will actually be disarmed from Gaza this morning, despite key assurances from the leader of the Palestinian Authority, which formed the basis of Anthony Albanese's decision to recognise a Palestinian state. Data shows support for the Palestinian Authority is only at 22% across Palestine, as opposed to almost 60% who say they support Hamas. This is from one survey that's been published this morning. It comes as Susan Lee vows to overturn Palestinian recognition should the coalition win the next election. For more, Opposition Leader Susan Lee joins us live in Adelaide. Good morning. How concerned are you about the level of support for Hamas in Palestine?
Very concerned, Nat, and it's clear from the reports that are now emerging that this recognition from the Prime Minister is unconditional. There were several conditions placed on it notionally, but they can't reasonably be met. One of them is that Hamas will be dismantled and taken out of any general elections, and clearly that's not possible, which is why the coalition has made it very clear that we oppose this. There can be no recognition without peace. There can be no reward for terror, and we will reverse this decision, because ultimately this is not in the interests of the Palestinian people, and it's not in the interests of peace in the region, which we all want. Nat, we all want the war to end, the suffering to end, Gazans to be fed and the hostages to be released. That is not going to happen under the Prime Minister's proposal.
So these stats are shocking. Half of Palestinians believe October 7 was correct. 40% say Hamas will still have power after the war. How much credence how do you put in this polling, though? It was apparently taken recently. There's a war going on, people are starving. How can it be accurate?
Well, the answers are not there. So what does the Prime Minister mean when he says recognise Palestine? Is it in fact the Gaza Strip, where, as you say, the terrorists are in control and the war is raging and the hostages are still trapped in tunnels? Is it the West Bank, where some of these figures are indicating strong support for Hamas? What does it mean? What we know is that it will not bring peace. It will not make the world a safer place, and it will not help deliver aid to people who desperately need it. Meanwhile, Nat, the Prime Minister needs to focus at home. Can I make this clear today? He really does. He's distracted by wars overseas, and while we care very deeply about suffering, there are Australians at home who are really struggling right now, struggling with the basics, and they need a Prime Minister whose first duty should be to them.
OK, so you were, I think, a few weeks ago saying he should be going to the US, he should be meeting President Trump. That's a foreign issue. So in this case, you're saying he shouldn't be looking at the Middle East, but he should be looking at the US. Can you see where that's a confusing message?
Not at all. He's clearly distracted by what he's been talking about now for weeks with respect to Palestinian recognition, that is actually not going to make the world a safer place, not going to free the hostages, not going to deliver aid, not going to deliver the two-state solution. And meanwhile, Australians at home are struggling. Now, the US relationship, by the way, is quite different. In fact, the US has said, with respect to this conflict between Israel and Palestine, that these moves to recognise Palestine actually make a ceasefire and the end of the conflict less likely. And the Prime Minister doesn't have a relationship with his counterpart in the US.
OK.
So we haven't received the assurances we need on AUKUS and tariffs, etc. So yes, that's an important relationship. What I'm saying is right now we've got Australians here who are struggling. He's focusing on overseas matters that aren't necessarily
got interest rates that are the lowest
Australia's
for 2
interests.
years. We've had 3 cuts this year. The government would be arguing that on the home front it's on the up.
Australians' families are still paying $1,800 more for their mortgage, and the RBA, while delivering that welcome relief to mortgage holders, has also said that productivity
They're the lowest
has also
in 2
said
years.
that Nat, the RBA has said that productivity and growth are weak. That means living standards in Australia are going to decline further. We've already had the biggest drop in the developed world. These forecasts indicate that it's going to drop further. Now, I know that people see this as a macroeconomic discussion, but there are children sleeping in cars, getting out of those cars, fully dressed in their school uniforms, going to school, and parents who can't afford to put a roof over their heads. And when you read the latest Anglicare report that said there's $33 left over in somebody who's on the minimum wage after they pay their rent, their groceries and their transport costs. That's not a cost of living crisis, that's a cost of survival crisis.
You're right, people are still hurting. You're right, it's not over. Look, thank you very much, Susan, for your view. We appreciate it this morning. Thanks for joining us. Here's Sherva.